Back to school is busy enough. The last thing you need is shopping that makes it harder. Whether you're moving into a dorm, your first apartment, or just getting organized for the semester, Wayfair makes it easy to get everything you need in one place. Furniture, bedding, storage, decor, study essentials, all at prices you'll love, with fast shipping before move-in day. Get everything you need for back-to-school season. Shop Wayfair.com today.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to the Secret Passage podcast. I am your host, Dana Vespoli.
And I am your host, Shannon Rogers.
And
Still awkward.
Yeah, I know. It's always awkward. We are talking about Madeleine McCann, the case of Madeleine McCann. Still missing after, 25 years? Wait, no, 20, I think.
Oh, yeah, 2007?
Yes.
Whatever that math is.
It's been a long time. And we decided to do this case while we were recording the JonBenét Ramsey case, our last 3 episodes, and we realized that Madeleine McCann, her case echoes a lot of JonBenét, what happened with JonBenét. So that said, Shannon, do you remember when Madeleine McCann went missing?
Yes, May 2007. May 3rd, 2007.
Do you remember?
Oh, do I have memories of? Yeah. My own personal memories. I'm like, yes, I do. May 3rd, 2000.
I felt like a teacher. Do you remember? Give me the date. No,
I did actually feel on the spot. I was all, May 3rd.
Yeah, no, I was just curious if you remembered hearing about it and if you had any sort of reaction or feeling to hearing about it.
God, both of these abductions, JonBenét's murder and this one happened at these really interesting times in my life. I was kind of reflecting on that. Like in 1990, it was 96 or 97 for JonBenét.
December of 96.
Okay.
Right.
So it was like right when I was kind of transferred to Cal, and it was like entering that phase where I met you and we had all these friends, and it was a college kind of experience after I went to junior college for it took me a long time to get my bachelor's degree. I took my time. So, and then this was 2007, and this is right when I met Tim in October of 2007. And both of those periods in my life, I was really far away from true crime. I wasn't really that engaged with it. I think when I met you around 97, 98 is when I kind of got back more into it. You introduced me to John Douglas, and I just remember seeing it all over the headlines and just feeling not super engaged with it, not as sort of enthralled as I had been in other cases like Scott Peterson or even JonBenét. And I remember that being a time where I was not at all aware of the pedophile problem. It was pre like anything I'd learned about there being networks of pedophiles. And I think that was like a relatively new thing because the internet was kind of newish at the time, or social media was new at the time of the Madeleine McCann case. And we didn't have social media with JonBenét.
Right.
We had email, I think, but I don't remember being captivated by it, and I don't even remember it feeling like as much of a mystery to me as to what happened with JonBenét. How about you?
So, yes, I do remember when this happened. And it also happened during a pivotal time in my life, because that's when shortly after Adam was born, my oldest, he was born a few months before this. And so it tapped into my worst possible fear.
Oh, yeah.
And, I had these feelings that I had never experienced before, having a child and just the intense, and a lot of it was postpartum too, just this intense anxiety about needing to keep him safe, worrying, hovering, being hypervigilant.
Yeah.
And so when this happened and I saw the news, I was absolutely terrified. And then also became extremely judgmental towards the parents
Mm.
because again, it was my worst fear and I wanted to blame someone for what
Mhm.
happened. And because there's, this is still an ongoing investigation, we still technically have no idea what happened to her except that she's missing. We, as we talked about in the JonBenét episode, we want cohesion, we want an answer, we want an absolute because at least that's comforting.
Mhm.
And so like a lot of people, I was like, well, I don't know that they hurt her, but their negligence got her abducted, or that their negligence is why she's missing, is
Mm.
where I went in my mind.
Yeah.
I feel very differently now,
Mhm.
especially with some distance and stuff. But I thought that we would have answers, just like with JonBenét. I thought this will wrap up. This will wrap up in a few months, and here we are, and this is still an ongoing investigation. So that was my introduction to this case.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I mean, especially after our research this week, it really we both binged the Netflix, series last night.
Yeah.
And, I was struck by how comforting it is for us as humans to assign blame, you know? It just makes if we can blame someone, we don't have to live with all of that uncertainty, right? And
Right.
sort of yeah. It's so comforting. You could see it in everyone in the documentaries, the tendency to want to find blame. Like there's an actual desire to solve the case, I think, but then it's very on the line with like you can cross the line into I just want to find someone to blame here. You know what I mean? It's like a little dance I think we do
Right.
psychologically. Like there's genuine curiosity. You want to solve the crime, especially if somebody's like a perpetrator and they might be perpetrating against other people. But this also sort of like this hardening around blame that we
Right.
see with the police officers and the media. And yeah.
For those of you who need a refresher on this case or who have never heard of this case, we'll give you a quick breakdown of it. So Madeleine Beth McCann was just 3 years old when she vanished on the evening of May 3rd, 2007, from her family's holiday apartment in Praia da Luz, Portugal. Her parents, Kate and Gerry McCann, were doctors from the United Kingdom, vacationing with their 3 children, which included Madeleine and her younger brother and sister, Sean and Amelie. The twins were about a year and a half, I think. So the McCanns were on holiday with 7 of their friends, and everyone was staying at the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz. Ocean Club was known for being family friendly with all kinds of activities for adults and children alike. So many days the children would go to the they call it a creche, which is like a kids club where the children will do kids activities while parents are playing tennis or swimming, doing a variety of other things. So
Did you hear about the cute names they have for their little kids clubs? Like Madeline was in the lobster club and the I know, and the siblings were in the octopus club. Isn't that adorable?
that is really cute. And it should be noted that they chose Ocean Club Resort because it was built around accommodating families with small children. And also that Praia da Luz was considered a very safe town. And the parents were in the habit each day of, having the kids at the kids club. They would go do activities. They would gather everyone up. Children would eat dinner in the late afternoon, early evening. And this is where a lot of the controversy comes in. Also, it should be noted that some of their friends, their 7 friends, also had small children ranging in age from like toddler to child, or young child. So everyone would put their kids to bed, in their separate holiday apartments. These weren't hotel rooms. There's a misconception some people have that these are actual hotel rooms. These are rented apartments at the resort. And so they would put their children to bed and then go to the tapas bar, which was about 50 meters away from.
I only know yards. I think 50 yards or something, or 100 yards.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, it was something like it would take about 2 minutes. As the crow flies, it was about 50. I want to say meters.
It was close.
Yeah, you could see the balcony, the back sliding glass door balcony, and the front of the apartment was on the street. So there was a swimming pool that sat between the tapas bar and the ground floor balcony of the McCann's apartment, right? So you couldn't walk straight across. You would have to walk around, and it would take you about 2 minutes to reach the back, the sliding glass door. And the system that the families had was that everyone would sit at the same table every night. They would sit at that same table that provided them a clear, like straight across view of the McCann's apartment. And the system was about every 20, 30 minutes, someone would go and check on the children and then come back. And that was the system that they had in place, that they had been doing pretty much every evening leading up to this, to the fatal night of May 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say fatal, I don't mean fatal as in deadly, but just this unfortunate, fate that befell the McCanns.
Mm-hmm.
So on the evening of May 3rd, I think Gerry McCann went first to go check on the children
Mm-hmm.
and checked. Everything was all right. Everyone was asleep. Everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then he returned. And then 20, 30 minutes after that, their friend went and checked. And when their friend checked, he didn't go into the bedroom of the McCann children. He just kind of did, I think, a cursory glance or listened at the door and could just hear like the twins kind of rolling over, breathing, and assumed everything was fine. Also, the twins, their cribs, their portable cribs, kind of blocked the view to Madeleine's bed on the other side. So you'd have to kind of walk into the room to see her lying there. So
Yeah.
even if you were just to peek in, you're going to see the cribs and then make the assumption that because it's quiet and the twins are undisturbed, that everyone is asleep, is
Mm-hmm.
kind of how I understand it.
And he saw light too. He saw like a little bit of light in the
From the
rooms.
window?
Yeah, so he said he saw a little bit of light and he heard the noise of that sounded like the twins maybe turning over. But he didn't go into the room. He just looked in.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the light thing was a point that they made because they were saying that she noticed the shutters were open when she got to check.
Okay. So the idea being that perhaps the shutters were open and that was the light, maybe a street light that the friend was kind of seeing coming through
Yeah, so,
a
like,
little
they're
bit.
thinking that, like, timing-wise, that she might have been abducted between when Jerry went and then this friend went.
Gotcha.
Because if they went out if they're the ones who lifted the shutters because the shutters were closed before, then they think, "Oh, well, then maybe he had been there to take her before that friend checked."
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Which totally possible considering, he just kind of did a cursory listen at the door, little barely a peek in.
Mhm.
So he returns to the table, and then sometime after that, Kate McCann goes to check. And when she goes to check, that is when she discovers that Madeleine is missing. She goes in, there's a wind that comes in, blows the door shut, the children's room shut. She pushes it open, sees that Madeleine is no longer in the bed. She races around calling for Madeleine. Madeleine is not in the apartment, and she rushes out shouting that they've taken her, which again, her choice of words has come under some scrutiny. But by all accounts, that is what she was shouting. And then at this point, everybody is running to look for Madeleine, look in the apartment. And this is where things get really, really complicated. And this is what really reminds me of JonBenét, is immediately the crime scene is compromised. Everyone and their mother is tramping through the apartment, of course, in an effort to help. Everyone's in a panic. They contact the interestingly enough, they contact the gendarme, right? It's the
there's like the JD and the
GNR, the Garda Nacional Republicana, which is sort of like the gendarmes. So then they also end up compromising the scene, because at any given time there was like 20 people like tramping through, moving things, panicked, moving furniture around, touching things, running around the perimeter trying to find the child. Again, totally understandable. Your assumption is that not that she's necessarily, I mean, for other people, not necessarily that someone like picked her up and took off into the night with her, but maybe somehow she's just around there. So everybody's looking. The GNR arrive. They start trying to find her as well. Then they call the Policia Judiciaria, the PJs, as they're called.
PJs, yeah,
which is what I'm going to call them now, because my accent was really bad.
The PJs, okay.
Yes. So then the PJs arrive, and they are the detectives, essentially. So that's that. Then at that point is when they can kind of try to lock down the scene, but it's everything was compromised at that point.
And they had shut the shutters and done other things. Yeah.
Right. So all kinds of things. And again, that went to really push a lot of implication on Kate as well. So that the GNR arrived, they were about, it took them about like maybe 10, 15 minutes to get there. So that was around 10:30, I should say. 10:30 is around the time that Kate discovered that Madeleine was missing. Then the GNR arrived, and then they contacted the PJs around like 12:31. And then at that point, the PJs arrived, and the police, I'll just call them the police, they arrived and began searching in earnest for her. So that is kind of where we leave off. Let me go check the timeline.
What I thought was really interesting about the whole thing was that like this was really moving, that all of the people that were staying at the resort just like jumped into gear and started searching for her and wanting to help, which was so sweet. And then they did like a citizen search outside of the building, and the Netflix documentary is so great for seeing the actual people who were involved, other vacationers, the media, the police. Didn't you love those women who were staying, the sisters that were staying in the same building as them? I thought they were so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense as well, because you've got families staying there, and it's, they're probably thinking, geez, what would we do? And a lot of the people that had seen Madeleine, who had seen her, they'd been there already almost a week.
Everyone's worst nightmare. It's like, yeah, everyone's worst nightmare.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then one of the they're referred to as the tapas 7, which are the McCann friends. So if the McCanns were included, it would be the tapas 9. But the seven of their friends. One of them, Jane Tanner, had at one point, this is what she ended up telling the police as they are trying to do an investigation. She explains to them that she had gone to check on her own kids at one point around the time that Gerry McCann, Madeleine's father, Kate's husband, had finished checking on Madeleine, and he had stopped in the street. So keep in mind again that the front door of the McCann apartment opens onto the street. The back part of the apartment is within sort of the resort, where you can see the pool surrounding stuff and the tapas bar. So Gerry had exited the front door of the apartment and was heading back, or so kind of like the long way around to get back to the tapas bar, and stopped to talk to a friend that happened to be at the same resort for that vacation, on vacation. And so Jane Tanner, she was heading back from checking on her children, and passed by Gerry, or saw Gerry engrossed in a conversation with his friend. And so she didn't interrupt. She just sort of like passed by undetected. But she had seen a man carrying what appeared to be a little girl away from all the apartments, maybe heading towards where the direction of the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And that the girl coincidentally happened to be wearing pink pajamas, as Madeleine had also been wearing that night to bed. But Jane didn't think anything of it. She just thought, it's a thing you notice, it's a family resort. It's not unusual to see parents carrying their kids and stuff. And certainly I would imagine, knowing that Gerry had just checked on the children, that Madeleine was fine, and that this was just an odd coincidence. So this is something that she told the police.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick refresher of the timeline. The McCanns left the kids around 8:30 p.m. in their apartment, checking on them every 20, 30, 40 minutes. Gerry checked at 9:05 p.m. Madeleine was asleep. A friend, Jane Tanner, reported seeing a man carrying a child around 9:15 p.m. On that street out in front of the apartments. Kate discovered Madeleine missing at 10 p.m. And then she raises the alarm. Police arrived. This is not the GNR. This is the actual PJs. Arrived by 10:50 p.m. Or there. No, that's the gendarme arrived at 10:50. The PJs arrived close to 1 a.m. So the police, they searched extensively. They found no immediate leads. Early theories included abduction. And then they started to really zero in on the parents. That's after cadaver dogs were offered up by the police in the UK. The police in the UK offered to help with the investigation. So around this time, shortly after, the police began investigating in Portugal. The McCanns were using every possible resource they could back home in England through friends and acquaintances to get the media reporting on this, trying to get as much attention on this as possible. And so pretty quickly, the UK media was reporting on it. And then through all of this, England offered to help assist in the investigation. And they sent Eddie and Keela, who were such cute. Were they Springer Spaniels? They looked
were
like
so cute. I think they
such
were.
cute dogs. Yeah, they look like Springer Spaniels.
They called them hounds in some bloodhounds or something in one of the something I listened to, but I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, they looked just like Springer Spaniels, which are they're hunting dogs. I mean, Springer Spaniels are used for, like, you see it a lot in falconry and all different kinds of stuff because they have such a strong sense of smell.
Mm-hmm. They were so cute.
Yeah. Okay.
So this was about, when did they start to turn on the parents? Like 60 days into it or something?
It was, yes, I want to say about 2 months in, they started to turn on the parents. But I think it should be noted, and maybe Shannon, you can speak to this.
Mm-hmm.
that in a lot of when they were investigating and coming up with nothing,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of anxiety around the perception towards Praia da Luz and the
Tourism.
resort and tourism, and
Mm-hmm.
this idea that pedophiles, that it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, the town and the resort, of course, prided itself on being very family friendly and safe,
Yeah.
but a lot of anxieties were cropping up around the fact that a little girl was stolen from the resort. And so some theorize that this put a lot of pressure on the local police to come up with something, come up with an answer.
Well, yeah, and the infamous local police investigator who was involved in the case, Amaral, who wrote the book. What is it called again? Truth,
Where the truth lies,
something
right?
like
No.
that. Yeah, he had been under investigation for his participation in another missing child case before this one even started, and it was a case where the child went missing and he ended up accusing the mother and the uncle of abduct the uncle eventually confessed that he was a drug addict and he sold the daughter for money and admitted that. And but they had coerced the mother of the child during the interrogation to give a confession that she was involved in the girl being missing, and they beat her up. I mean, she showed up with bruises and black eyes, and so he was already kind of under investigation. So he comes into this one, of course, reaches the same conclusion. I think he was under a lot of pressure because there was global scrutiny. The British got involved, and so that became a political sort of nightmare. It became like this representation for relationships between the countries, and like there was this sense that there was what was being inferred is that the Portuguese police force is not competent. So there was a lot of like, I think, having to prove himself. And then I think partially what happened is that the McCanns, I mean, I think people can really only bear each other's sorrow and pain for so long. And the McCanns were engaging. There's this great quote from the documentary. I wrote it down. Let me see. What did she say? People get tired. This is a friend of the McCanns in the documentary. She's being interviewed. She's like talking about how the media kind of turned on them and how the police turned on them, the parents. She said, people get tired of grief. They get tired of not knowing. And so the McCanns were there in Portugal during the early stages of the investigation, and they were really using the media. So it was like a media frenzy that was parked outside of this resort, getting in the way of other people's vacations. They're white people with doctors that have privilege, and then there are all these other children who are missing in Portugal that are getting no attention. And so at first people were just like, they found them endearing and they empathized with them and they wanted them to find their kid, and then you could just see it kind of slipping over time, because it was a lot. They were always putting signs up and putting huge inflatable things on the beach that had her name and picture on it, and flyers everywhere, and releasing balloons on the anniversary. And it was just, I'm sure it just sort of bred this sort of, like, there was, I could feel like the class issues at play, and then
Yes.
the regional issues at play between England and Portugal. And I've heard that, within the ranks of the police officers that they would get along, working together on the case, but that like politically what it looked like and felt like was that there was just a lot of doubt about the competence of the Portuguese police, and that the British police were overstepping. So it just got messy. And then the police were feeding the media, like they were in the JonBenét Ramsey case, lies about the case, about how certain the DNA results were that they took from the home and the car. And yeah, so it just became contentious, and people started turning on them and getting
Yeah.
hostile. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get I'd like to discuss a little bit more also kind of the class issue,
Mhm.
but I think this is a good time to take a quick break.
Yes.
Okay, so now getting into a little bit of class and also the conflict between the two countries. Understandably, all the attention that Madeleine McCann's disappearance was garnering when other children were going missing, being hurt, all of these things, and not gaining even a fraction of the same kind of attention was incredibly disconcerting to locals. And it reminds me a lot too of the reaction with JonBenét about, oh, here we go, another cute little white girl from a rich
Mhm.
family goes missing, and everyone cares. What about all of the kids that go missing that don't get the same resources, that don't get the same attention? And we saw that with this case as well.
Yeah, I loved what the guy who was like the head of that organization for missing and exploited children. It was interesting to hear his thoughts about it. He said he'd asked himself the question, why do some stories have traction and others don't? And he said a lot of the times what he would see is that circumstances would dictate how much the public would care about a case. So he said that the pattern he noticed was that kids like Adam Walsh, who go missing because they wander away from their parent in a store, or because how many parents has that happened to? Every parent, and it's every parent's worst nightmare. And then there was the other kid in England where he had, was it England? It might have been Portugal, but the kid whose mother let him walk to the bus stop for the first time.
Wait, was this Eton Pat's?
Yes.
That was New York.
Okay, yeah. So his mother had
Yeah.
let him walk to the bus stop for the first time on his own, and he got abducted. And then, like JonBenét, and like this case, you leave your kid alone. And people in the document, for us nowadays, leaving your kids alone in an apartment while you're dining is it seems so negligent. But these people were all relating to it. Like I've done that with my kids, when they talk to the media. And so I think people can relate to just having your eye off of your kid for a half an hour and having something horrible happen to them. So I thought I hadn't heard that analysis before, but it makes sense because it's relatable.
Well, and again, yeah, it's your worst nightmare, and also because well, especially with, I mean, I could talk about Adam Walsh for days because I don't.
Mm,
That was when I really clued in on the fact that the world is a scary place, and that's because I was little when when the made for TV movie came out. But it's how often, like, what are the odds, right? You
I
have
know.
your kid and he wants to watch this video game demonstration happening, and you go, all right, I'll be right back, I'm gonna go grab a lamp, and then
Yeah.
he's gone. How often does that happen? All the fucking time, all the
Ugh.
fucking time. And yeah, it's your worst nightmare. And with Jean Benet, similar to Polly Klaas, it's someone literally came into the house and took off with a child. We
Yep.
think it statistically speaking, it doesn't happen. Like it doesn't really happen. And I understand that the Jean Benet case is still unsolved, but let's say that okay, the parents are completely, and by all accounts they are innocent, but someone took her, someone took Polly Klaas, and someone took Madeline. And I think it's, I mean, honestly, in the case of JonBenét Ramsey's parents and in the case of Madeleine McCann's parents, they were in a financial position to be able to call in favors, get the media on this. Also, it's great copy, so the media already is going to want to talk about it and report on it.
Yeah, well, they also hired a PR firm too,
Yeah,
so they were working the media. That was the one of the complaints. We're going to talk about the media again in a different
right.
episode, but that was one of the sort of like complaints people launched at them was like, how can you complain about the media? You've been using the media to amplify your message this whole time, and ugh, I mean, any parent would do that. It's just sad that
And also, I think it's important to note that already by the time that the PJs, the Portuguese police force, were doing their investigation, no one had stopped any the flow of traffic out of the country.
I know.
Like it's the McCanns, I believe, could see all the
Yes.
problems that were happening, and that if they were going to use every possible resource they could to help. Also, being in a foreign country where you're maybe not so clued into what the laws are, you want the comfort of your system to help you. And
Yes.
and yeah, I know I saw the complaints too. It's like they're traveling to Spain, they're traveling here, they're traveling there, and it's like because their daughter could fucking be anywhere at this point.
Yeah, and they felt like the police were not, they were thinking it was them, so they weren't doing the work to try to find the abductor.
Well, no, so then that's the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah.
So then now here's where things really shift. And that is when the UK police send in a handler and his two dogs, Eddie, who was a cadaver dog, and Keela, who was a blood detection dog. And the dogs were brought into the apartment, and they it should be noted that both of the dogs had 100% accuracy.
I'm laughing because when you watch them, they're all
I know. I know.
just like insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild.
No, I know. I kind of like I'm imagining like police dogs, and I'm imagining like a Belgian Malinois or a German Shepherd, and
Yeah.
it's like all sophisticated looking, and it's like these two like cuddly dogs, like just like, and he's so sweet with them. The handler's so sweet with them. He's like, oh, "That's a good boy. That's a
Yeah.
good boy." Yeah,
But they're so wild. Like they're in a mode. They're just like all
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah.
tell them trying to get the scent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a spaniel thing too. It drives me crazy. Like when I've been around spaniels, they will look for the stinkiest thing and roll in it.
Oh god.
And oh yeah. Anyway, so so Keela and Eddie both zero in the McCann apartment on an area. They are not interested in the bedroom. They're not interested in any part of the house except for near the window in the living room and around the couch. And so they start barking like crazy there.
Hmm.
And then the handler brings them out to cars, and he is not informed of which car belongs to the McCanns. And so the McCanns didn't have a rental car until about 25 days after Madeleine went missing. Then they got a rental car so they could, go get around the area. But Keela and Eddie both zero in on the McCann car without any prompting as to which vehicle it is. And so they are zeroing in on primarily the trunk, the car's trunk, or the boot, as they call it. And this radically shifted. If it hadn't already been starting to shift, this kind of was the undoing for the McCanns as far as the Portuguese police were concerned. They turned their attention to the McCanns, called them suspects, interviewed them at great length, and came up with the theory that the McCanns had sedated Madeleine and the twins, but had over-sedated Madeleine by accident. So at no point, actually, I mean, to their credit, I guess, they viewed the parents as responsible, but that it was an accidental thing, not a rage killing or anything like that, but simply that because they were in the habit of leaving their children to sleep in the apartment night after night, that they were probably giving them Calpol, I think is what it's called, which is a medication. Like, it sounds like a little bit like NyQuil or something like that.
Thinking. Yeah.
Because it's a fever reducer, pain reducer, but it also causes sleepiness or drowsiness. And so one theory was that perhaps, Gerry gave Madeleine some, and then Kate, not knowing, came in and gave her some, not knowing that Gerry had already administered some, and that it caused Madeleine to overdose. And then somehow they discovered that she passed, and then I guess hid the body for 25 days, and then put her in the trunk, and then disposed of her somewhere, is their contention.
Yeah, it was like a carbon copy of the previous case that he had worked on, where he had said that that's what happened to the body of the girl who went missing, that they had stuffed her into
Amaral.
yeah, Amaral had said they had
Right.
stuffed her into a refrigerator. So that was what he was thinking they did, is they had a refrigerator or something somewhere where they stored the body and then moved it after time in the boot of the car.
So at this point, then the headlines were horrible,
Ugh.
horrible headlines. Now, this was Portuguese tabloids and, of course, UK tabloids, which are some of the gnarliest tabloids ever. It's like brutal,
Oh, it's
brutal,
so
brutal. Calling them killers, saying all types of things, that Kate was a horrible person. So then what ends up happening is that the public shifts from being very sympathetic to accusing the McCanns and of being negligent parents, being horrible people. And the Portuguese police were were not allowed, technically, because the McCanns were not allowed to discuss any details of the case at all.
Oh, they have different rules there about that. So
So the
yeah.
police were breaking their own rules by leaking information to the Portuguese press.
And they
And
were leaking
so,
bad information to the Portuguese
yes.
press because they had taken those DNA samples from where the dogs alerted, and they were all inconclusive, but they made it sound like they pointed directly to the parents. And that's what they ended up reporting. And then they escalated it, then the British news would pick it up, and then they would escalate it, then the Portuguese would escalate. So then it was just this feedback loop of exaggerations and not and bad information about the parents' involvement. Ugh.
Right. And so the parents eventually, I want to say after about 3 months, returned to England. And of course, the public assumed that this was because they didn't care about Madeline. They couldn't do anything right at this point. It's like,
Mm.
well, you don't care about her. That's why you're returning to England. It's like failing to recognize that they have two children who are at an age where they're learning to speak. They're speaking a little bit. They're walking. They have to return home. Just they have to consider the twins.
Yeah.
So they did that. And also around this time, there was a wealthy businessman who took an interest in the case and was essentially, he offered to sponsor them and to pay for independent investigation into finding Madeline.
Mhm.
And to this day, as I understand it, with the McCanns, they believe that Madeline is still alive, and that a family has her and is raising her as their own, and that she is safe.
Want to talk a little bit about the context that we're in here? Like in Portugal at the time, other children were going missing.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about
The
the
Wonderland Club.
Casapia?
Yeah, there's Casapia, and then there's the Operation Cathedral, which was like a police operation that broke up a major international child pornography ring. I forgot the name of the kid whose parent was in Portugal.
Joao? Was
Yes.
it Joao? I just remember his first name. I don't remember his last name.
So yeah, there was a massive bust of like this online pedo community. And at the time, it was started in 1995. I think they broke it up in 98 or something. And just in the documentary, they just showed how they had these sort of booklets full of photographs from the children that had been taken from the videos that they had found in this online dark web group. And they allowed the mother of the missing child to come and look for her kid, and she found him in it, right? And so knowing that that's what's going on and the other children are going missing in this way, they also had intelligence that around the time, well, we're probably going to get into this with the people they hired, the private investigators that the McCanns hired, they discovered that there was a piece of intelligence that came through that said that before Madeleine had gone missing, there was an order essentially from Belgium for a young girl, and that someone in the pedophile group had seen Madeleine and had taken a picture of her and sent it to Belgium, and they had said yes, like get that one. So the purchaser had said yes. So I'm like, it's so I understand why they're clinging to hope that someone just wanted a kid and they're taking care of her, but for me it just feels like, yeesh, given that that's what was going on.
Yeah. There's a few things about them that I noticed right away with Gerry and Kate. And one of them is they only ever speak about Madeleine in present tense. They've only ever spoken about her in present tense. Also, that this is what that they're clinging to, this hope that she is loved, that she is cared for. And also one thing, it's just so heartbreaking, is Cuddle Cat, Madeleine's stuffed animal, her beloved stuffed animal that Kate would carry around. And I noticed this thing that Kate would do is that she was smelling the cat all the time. I would see her doing that. And it's funny because I do that with my kids' stuffed animals and blankets. Like anytime I would be transferring the blanket or the stuffed animal, I would smell it first because it would smell like their necks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Their little sweaty necks. And so, and maybe I'm giving myself away a little bit here, but there's a few things that, and I know this is doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it means a little bit to me as a mother. And that is, let's say that Kate and Gerry were responsible for Madeleine dying. I feel like Cuddle Cat would have been buried with her.
Of course.
Right? Also, that they would want this to go away. They have invested so much into this investigation. The fact that they still speak about her in present tense, which I know you could make the argument, oh, well, maybe they know better because that's such an easy thing that, we learn about in true crime, is that the parents are suddenly, or that they immediately were speaking in past tense about the child or whatever. But yeah, so I thought about that. But here's the thing too with the whole pedophile ring. You had texted me a while, like I want to say a few days ago, and you were like, what is up with all these pedophiles? And here's the thing is this is a misconception that, obviously with a lot of like the kind of research we do into these cases and stuff has shifted. But for the longest time, I always thought of pedophiles as lone wolves.
Oh, yeah.
Not as communities.
They had to be before. Yeah.
I always thought of them as kind of like just weird and awkward, and I always picture them as like little mustache, kind of skinny with like a members only jacket and like kind of like a comb over, and they kind of like walk around kind of hunched and stooped over. And here we are now, and there's entire networks of like billionaire sophisticates, I guess, that are, that thing with the placing an order reminded me of fucking Hostel, of Eli Roth Hostel. Like my mind went there. I'm like,
well, human trafficking is an insane fucking industry. I mean, this is the thing. It's the stuff of nightmares. So I want to talk about that. Let's come back to that, and I want to add this to it.
Okay.
When I was watching that documentary, I was so shaken by Kate's obvious grief, like the stunned, kicked in the gut, like brokenhearted feeling you could just read in her body. And she was wasting. She was like so skinny, and they just looked like in complete shock. And I remember thinking at the time, I had this fantasy, like, I'm like, yeah, the dogs are smelling death. Like, it's a death. Like she feels like death. She feels like she's withering. And I thought, what if that's what they're alerting to? Is this like, sort of more spiritual kind of thing that was going on with them, because she was the one carrying the little cat, and that's the thing they kind of alerted to the different items and her clothing. And I just thought, of course. And so, yeah, it's like you either live with the reality that your kid has been abducted by one of these horrible, wealthy people that can procure little blonde girls, or you believe some childless couple. I would rather believe that some childless couple that really wanted a baby took my kid, because the other thing just seems totally unbearable. I do not know how someone could live with that, to know that
No.
their baby was taken by someone and yeah.
Well, this is why I realized, with the JonBenét case, when I kept insisting that it had to have been Patsy and it had to have just been an accident,
Mhm.
because at least it would be quick and it
Yeah.
would be over with. And the evidence just seems to be pointing to the worst possible outcome, which is torture and murder, torture, rape, and murder. And so with Madeleine, yeah,
Ugh.
it's almost like, this sucks. It sounds really just pessimistic, but the odds of Madeleine being with a loving fucking family and unseen with her little distinctive mark in her eye, I don't know. No, no.
It's something to behold, honestly. I don't have kids, and honestly, if something I always think about something happening to one of my nieces or my nephew, and I cannot imagine. I mean, I know how I would go on. I would go on, but I would be, I would have to, could every once in a while, it would come flooding into my awareness, like what could be happening to them, or what, maybe I mean, death would be merciful, is what I'm saying in that situation.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. But the point of bringing up the fact that there were and are these pedophile rings, and how easy it would have been to we've spoken about this before. If you're a pedophile or a procurer for pedophiles, you are going to frequent places where you can find one with relative ease, where they will be. And the thing with the Ocean Club, for example, and how easy it is to get children in and out of these different European countries because they're pressed up against each other. It's
Yes.
really easy to get from one place to another. But the thing with the Ocean Club resort, and how I can imagine it would have been so easy to spot Madeleine and to recognize the pattern of behavior of the families,
It
just day
was
after day
so
after day. She's at the
predictable.
club from this time to this time. It doesn't take much to be able to observe the way they are with the apartments, and that they were in the same habit, even spotting and recognizing how the roughly the length of time between the checks on the children.
And you think about, like, who had contact with them, like, it could be anyone. It could be a boyfriend of a worker, or a right, and
It
they
could be
had
a worker.
right, and they had
It
written,
could be a worker.
the thing about the, like, where you sign in for the
Yeah.
restaurant, how they had written next to their party's name that they were gonna be dining there every night at 8:30, and they had booked it every night at 8:30,
Same
because
table.
they were leaving their children alone, and they
Mhm.
needed to check on them, and they actually wrote that on the sign-in thing, and everybody who came to the restaurant could see that, including all the employees. So, and that was like a popular bar and restaurant for people.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, they were just so vulnerable, and they did not know it, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's important to address, I guess, kind of the elephant in the room, which is the negligence on the part of the families. And the way I think of it, again, going back to my initial reaction when Madeleine went missing, and it was reported the way that the families were conducting these half-hour checks on the kids, and that is that I'm sympathetic to it now, being a parent and looking at, there are a million and one ways we fuck up. There's a million and one ways, from the parent that puts water wings on her child and then thinks that's going to keep them safe in water, and then a drowning happens. Taking your eyes off your kid, thinking that you're watching them while they're in the pool, but you get distracted by your phone. Something happens. Something catches your attention. A kid throws a ball in the yard. You walk over to get it, throw it back. You come back. Your kid is underwater because drowning is silent. From all of these things, the illusion of safety that you have with the resort, that you are in a place that's reported to be family friendly and safe. The town is reported to be family friendly and safe. Maybe you've never known hardship in your life. Maybe you are a little out of touch, right? Maybe you think because the Mark Warner system, that Mark Warner, the owner of these hotels and resorts, that they have a service where you can hire somebody to basically just go and listen in at your door every 30 minutes and report back to you if they hear anything, which is something that used to be a feature of the hotel and stuff. Gives that, there's an illusion of safety there because it's a system that's put in place. Oh, well, it must be reliable. It must be good.
Well, you're just doing what they're doing. If you do that yourself.
Yeah, but you decide, well, no, we'll do one better. We won't listen at the door. We'll actually physically go in and check on the children. We can see the apartment from our table. We're fine. Obviously not. Obviously, this terrible, horrible, fucked up thing happened. But it's just, how many times do people fuck up all the time, but somehow they get lucky? Somehow they've been lucky. So
Yep.
that is, I'm in a different place now because, again, I can acknowledge that seeing that, I'm like, and I see it in the Reddit threads too. Well, they're responsible because their neglect got their daughter kidnapped. Even if they're not guilty, they're guilty of this. And I'm like, no one knows more than they do. No one knows more than they do. Can you imagine how many times they replay that over and over again? If only, if only, if only. I think about, Reve with Adam Walsh. Had she just said, nope, you're not going to stay here. You're going to come with me to get the lamp. But what are the fucking odds?
Oh my God. That's just, it's everybody's worst nightmare. You look away for a second and boom. I think the thing about the hotel offering the service, so they offered two services. One, you could drop your kid with them and they would watch your kid, and then you'd have to go get your kid when you were done with dinner. And they didn't want that service because they didn't want the kids to wake up on the way back to the house. They didn't want to disrupt their sleep, which every parent knows is something you don't want to do. And then they had the other service, which was, we'll go by your door and listen and check on your kid. The fact that they offered that service, I feel like normalized it for the parent. Like I would just be like, oh, okay, this is a normal thing people do.
Right.
But then someone was saying in the comments of one of the forums I was looking at that they actually meant that for older kids. So like not toddlers and infants, they meant it for like, and I didn't get a hold of it's not available anymore on the website. They probably don't even offer it as a service anymore, or maybe they do. I don't know. But I couldn't read the full language. And if they did break it down between age groups and say, for older kids, we'll go by and listen. Younger kids, they have to go here. I don't know, but that normalized it in my mind for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, for older kids, I feel like at that point they can call you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like at that point, kids even had cell phones, or, they could use the hotel phone to call, And then older, I know it's like toddler is older. For some people, toddler. I mean, Madeleine was about to turn 4. So I don't know. It's yes, I think it was normalized, and
I'd have a hard time though.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I would not be comfortable with that. But it's also, am I saying that now because this happened? I don't know. But I wouldn't also because I was like kind of a helicopter mom. I feel like with Gerry and Kate too, they were doctors, and admittedly, I've never been to a resort like that before.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know, like, was this their first time? Was this their second time?
Mm-hmm.
They were familiar, I think, enough with the area, but
Oh, it was her first time because she made that comment to Almaro. Is it Almaro or Alvaro? I don't remember this. Yeah, to the investigator, Amaral.
Amaral.
She made a comment. He's like, "Is this your first time?" And she's like, "Yeah, and it'll be my last." And he's like, "Calm down, lady." When she said that, he's like, "Simmer down over there."
Simmer down.
God, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, we can go into him a lot more when we talk about the theories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this case, man, just to, I guess we'll wrap this up here.
Mhm.
We've broken down the case
Mhm.
and that it is still ongoing.
Mhm.
Oh, wait a minute. The introduction of Christian Bruckner
Oh God.
as
Okay.
a suspect.
Okay. So let's go through this. So we're gonna do this episode, everybody. We're gonna do this episode where we lay out the case. The next
And then the
episode,
theories,
and then the third,
media.
media. Okay. I just watched a documentary about this, and it's only available on British TV. But Christian Buckner is a suspect. People believe is the person who took
Many
her.
people believe he
I was
is.
trying to see. Okay, so in 2016, that's when German police raided his little hideout.
Yes. So that happened. Prior to this, I think it should be noted about how finally we got information about the DNA and about the cadaver and blood dogs, and what the experts concluded, and this finally became public,
Mm-hmm.
was that the DNA proved a whole lot of nothing.
Yep.
That the cadaver and sniffer dogs could detect some decomposition and some blood, but unless they have a body, it's inconclusive. And so even their handler said, look, my dogs are one part of an investigation. They are a tool. But to say that they found Madeleine, or that it was Madeleine decomposing, or that it was something that wasn't like a dirty diaper that had been left in the
Or
car at some
garbage.
point, or garbage that has decomp or human I mean, Eddie specifically was trained in recognizing human decomp, but that can be anything. And considering that they could find blood in an article of clothing that had been washed 3 times, the fucking car? Are you
In a
kidding me?
rental car and
In
a
a
rental
rental car.
apartment, it's like
Yeah. And
you're gonna
that
have-
and that the DNA, like, you also have to understand that Madeleine's DNA, the way that DNA works, is that her DNA is made up of her parents, of her like, it was absolutely pointless. And there was a Portuguese reporter that was like, holy shit, the PJs lied to me. They
Mhm.
flat out lied to me. And they're like, no, it's what we got translated. It wasn't, like, trying to cover their tracks and all
Oh,
that.
the translator did leave out all the qualifiers.
All the
in the report.
qualifiers. Yes.
So the report came in and it was like, this should be taken with a grain of salt, blah, 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 basically. And he left all that part out. So, But I don't know, was it him or was it the police department that they knew and they left it out of their report? I forget.
I don't want to
Mhm.
assign too much blame, but the point is they
Mhm.
shouldn't have been leaking anyway. But this reporter was like, what the fuck, dude? And then you add to that, the reporter was saying these claims that possibly Kate and Gerry would have even been transporting their decomposed 3-year-old child around in the car. She said, I saw them every single day. They were not out of anybody's eye. There
No.
would never have been time for them to hide her body and then drive it somewhere and dump it. Like, that there was never a point where they were not being followed by just paparazzi and various, other kind of news organizations. So
But that journalist herself was interesting. You know, it's like she couldn't put that together. She took their word for it, really. And I guess why not? But I think you have to be aware of that, right? That there's confirmation bias going on everywhere. And when they told that to her, she didn't question it, right?
I think that's the eternal wrestling
Yeah.
match that any fucking journalist has
Yeah.
is, who am I beholden to? I should be beholden to the truth, but there is clearly an interest within her country, within her news organization, to be mindful of what
Ratings.
ratings, what looks, yeah,
Yeah.
ratings above everything else. It's is it news? Is it going to sell
Mhm.
papers? That's the issue, I think. I mean, we still see it today. We'll get into that later, but anyway, so yeah, so then things went on for a while, still looking for Madeleine, and Christian Bruckner became a person of interest. What year would you say that they zeroed in on him? It was around COVID.
It was 2016 when they raided his little house and they
Sure.
found the same model of Jaguar that he had before in that little thing, and they found all the hard drives, like an 80 gigabyte hard drive. They have a laptop of his. They are not disclosing a lot what's on there, but in this documentary they showed photographs of all these like toddler bathing suits, just photos of toddler bathing suits. They found like a dead dog and USB cards.
Buried.
Yeah, and 75 toddler swimsuits and untraceable weapons. And this dude had been hurting people for a long time. Apparently, when he was 17, he abused a 6-year-old girl on a playground. But he was living in, or his phone pinged near their apartments that night.
And then he sold his van, right? The day after Madeleine went missing.
Jaguar. The
His Jaguar,
Jaguar
sorry.
changed ownership the next day. Mm-hmm.
Right. And he was a transient kind of dude. He was always on the move. He insists that he is innocent. They had him on different charges. He was imprisoned for a period of time. He was released end of 2025, fall of 2025. And I think he has an ankle monitor on. He's being observed. But the German prosecutors insist that Madeleine is dead and that they have confirmation that she is dead, but they can't disclose anything or any further information because it could hinder their investigation and being able to actually prosecute him.
Do you think they have photographs?
Well, no, because I guess Christian could say that he didn't take them. He's not responsible. He just happened to be in possession of them. Right. Like I'm trying to think of every possible excuse he could give. He supposedly confessed to a cellmate, but how reliable that cellmate is considering that he was given leniency for providing, I'm not sure.
Yuck.
But Christian insists that he has nothing to do with it. But somehow the German prosecutors believe that he's their guy.
Hmm.
So then that's where we are.
Yeah.
That's where we are as far as the investigation itself. Gerry and Kate are still looking. They're still holding out hope. Their twins are good-looking kids, man. They're doing well. Their daughter is in university. Their son is in university, and I think like an elite swimmer.
Wow.
So
They seem okay. I read an article, and it seemed like they've been able to do their lives and live their lives despite this horrible nightmare that unfolded for them. I can't, I keep picturing her. She was just like a skeleton, you know,
Kate, yeah.
yeah. And their faces when they would be interviewed, I felt like, how could anyone, I mean, I know we're not supposed to go strictly on behavior. We need to look at evidence, but you just look into their faces and you see immediately just how absolutely stunned and gutted they both were. There was nothing suspicious to me about their behavior at all,
No.
really.
No, there if that is there was absolutely nothing suspicious at all. I learned a big lesson with the JonBenét case, and there's two things that Brett and Alice always say in their podcast, on the prosecutor's podcast, which is just such a great podcast. One of them is, you have to look at the evidence. You have to look at the evidence. And it's easy to get steered one way or the other with things like behavior, which behavior can tell you a lot, but you can't rely on it exclusively.
Mm-mm.
And also circumstantial evidence can only get you so far. And it reminded me, so remember when I said that I was talking about, it reminds me of pilots that when they get disoriented, they have to rely on their instruments.
Yeah.
Even when their instincts are telling them something else, so there was this horrible thing on TikTok. Oh my goodness. It was this young man, 21 years old, who accidentally he was flying. He had bought a small, like a Cessna, and he accidentally got above the clouds and got into some inclement weather. And there was a air traffic, the air traffic, dispatch. I forgot what they're
Oh,
called.
air traffic control?
Yeah. That I think also he was also a pilot, but he was trying to talk him through it, and he could see where he was, and he's like, I need you to, put your throttle like in neutral, make sure it stays in neutral. But the pilot kept finding himself trying to fight against what he was feeling because he couldn't see. He was like literally surrounded in white. He didn't know if he was nosediving. He didn't know if he was going up. And so he's the guy's trying to guide him. He ended up crashing. This young man. It's incredibly fucking sad.
Did he die?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, he did. And his last words were, "Tell my parents I love them."
Oh.
It's the worst fucking thing. It's like I was listening to it.
He just spazzed out, and he couldn't listen to the guy and follow his
He was
directions.
dizzy. Yeah, he had a lot going on. He was dizzy. He was nauseated from he couldn't tell if he was going down. He couldn't tell if he was going up. And so this voice is trying to guide him. But it's that thing of fighting against what your feelings are telling you, your instincts are telling you, and listening to this concrete information. And so I guess that's a really dramatic way of explaining. It's just, I remember saying before, it's like, it reminded me of like pilots. And then I happened across this TikTok account that was playing this. But there is an impulse to go with, they're acting weird. They're doing this. They're doing that.
God.
Why would they do this? Why would they do that? Why are they leaving Portugal? Don't they care about their daughter? Why isn't she crying? Why is she crying too much? Why is Gerry acting like a jerk? Why isn't he this? Why is he suddenly nice? Like all of that. And so I think of Brett and Alice saying, when with all that going on, you just try to look at the evidence. And the other thing that Brett says is everybody lies.
Yes. Especially people who are innocent. They lie too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that people can lie for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they lie to conceal that they're responsible for the crime. Sometimes they lie because they understand that something makes them look really, really bad, or they're embarrassed about something.
Right.
For example, with the case of the McCanns, a lot of things that I see come up on Reddit are, why do their stories keep changing? Why do they say this? Why do they say that they were checking every 20, 30 minutes, but no one had a watch on? Or why this? And I'm like, maybe because they fucking went over an hour. Maybe because they realized it looks really fucking bad. Maybe because they were drunk.
I mean, also they didn't have their phones with them, I heard, that night, or watches. And so, it's like, I can never piece together a night. I can't do that. I'm not watching the clock all the time. And it's
that they'd probably been drinking. What's interesting to me is like, that doesn't I haven't seen that come up in any documentary or in any like thread, which is presumably they were jolly, they were drinking. And I wonder how much alcohol, I mean, I'm sure they felt like they sobered up pretty quick when shit hit the fan, but they're still inebriated. There's still a blood alcohol level, but no one was, I feel like that Alcohol fucking
That's
changed, like, it
oh my
fucks you
God.
up, dude.
It changes your perception of time, everything. But the other thing is memory is totally fallible. Like our memories are not a thing. It's not like some thing that bubbles up that's like in there in a file.
Right.
It's a reconstruction. It's like they talk about all the time on the prosecutors, and we all know that eyewitness testimony is just
So unreliable.
so, and then honestly, so yeah, right. I mean, but I think you're talking about the disorienting nature of things and how to orient yourself in something grounded and real that isn't maybe like confirmation bias. Like we talked about RFT last time about the networks, right? If
Right.
your network is, oh yeah, I've been told they're guilty, the DNA matches, the parents are definitely guilty, they look shady, blah, blah, blah. Everything gets filed. Oh yeah, put it in there. Disregard that information that counters my narrative and my little network I've built out, because that's uncomfortable. That doesn't feel right, because your feelings get attached to the thoughts, and then the feelings move along those chains quickly, so everything goes into the guilt file, and then the rest of it gets filtered out. And it's this case even more, I mean, as much as the JonBenét case, maybe even more, especially when we binged that documentary. That to me was what really stood out, is how sometimes impenetrable that belief can be. I mean, especially for the police, they were so sure the parents did it. And the danger of that, the danger for the consequences that the parents, the McCanns had to feel, everybody believing they were guilty and they killed their own daughter, and
Which causes them to double down on trying to get as much attention as possible on their child, because if the Portuguese police are not looking outside
right.
of them, someone has to.
And the cost of that, like if you're not apprehending the person that did this, that person could possibly be doing this to other kids. And it's just it's very dangerous. And the mob thing is also terrifying in this case, just the way that spreads. We have to talk about the two casualties when we talk about the theories. Poor Robert Morat, the guy who volunteered.
That guy with the dodgy eye.
Poor guy. He was not even unattractive. One of the journalists said something about him as a strange looking man. He just looks like a man. He's
just a guy. I know he had a kind of that one dude was saying his dodgy eye. And then you see Robert Matt and he goes, yeah, I'm blind in one eye. Okay. Like,
yeah.
He's like, what the fuck? And then his poor,
Sergey
who's just like, he's like, what is going on?
He built a website for Robert Morat, and the poor guy, his life got hijacked for 10 years because everybody wanted to make him into a Russian pedophile.
Right.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next time.
Right. So I guess this is the case. We will be getting into some in-depth discussion next episode when we talk about theories. Some absolutely batshit off the wall crazy, some more reasonable. And then, of course, our theories about what happened. So please tune in next week. We look forward to continuing this discussion. And anything you guys have to say, if you want to weigh in on it, please do. We love to read your comments, your messages. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.